Welcome to the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. Have you ever wondered how people succeed in real estate and what steps they took to get there? If so, this podcast is for you. Your hosts, Selah and Eileen Prack, interview top experts in the real estate community to share with you their real estate journey and how they achieved massive success. Our goal is to provide you with valuable real estate resources and to help you apply it to your own real estate goal. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Prack, and today our guest is Keely Hubbard, and she is a real estate and agricultural investor and syndicator, as well as a sales coach for women business owners. She has a background in financial education and spent 7 years in this industry as an executive. Currently, she's a managing partner of Hubbard Capital Group, and she's duly responsible for acquisitions and investor relations, and they invest in both large multifamily and Texas vineyards. So Keely, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Eileen. I'm happy to be here.
So Keely, can you share with us, a little bit more about your background and how you got started with real estate?
Yes, absolutely. So I left corporate about 4 years ago. That was a big day for me, but my background is sales. I've been in sales for 17 years. It's really my passion. I know that sounds kind of crazy for people to think, somebody that loves sales so much, but I really do. And I love teaching sales. And so I left corporate to get closer to my salespeople. So when I left, I was a VP, and the further you climb in the corporate ladder, the further you get away from your team. And it's mostly meetings about spreadsheets and reports. And I wasn't doing my passion. So I left to really just start my own consulting firm and work with women business owners, which I love. But leaving gave me the opportunity to go into business with my father, which my dad and I had been in business together before. But when I was climbing the corporate ladder, I was traveling 22 days a month. Well, 20, sometimes 23. I didn't have really any time to myself and didn't even have time to explore the possibility of starting an investment firm. So when I left, all this time opened up, and, my father had been a trader for many years in the financial markets and a hedge fund manager. And he said, you know what, we're moving into hard assets. Do you want to help me build a business? And that's really where it all started.
So you've been in the corporate world for quite a little time before you made that transition into entrepreneurship and real estate. What was the driving factor for you that actually turned it so that you actually made that move, that transition into entrepreneurship and real estate?
It was scary. I'll say that. I got there mentally about a year before I actually left. So when I got there mentally of like, I just can't do this anymore. It was like, I was making incredible money. I was VP of sales for a company that I'd helped to build. When I came on board, they were doing 40 million a year in revenue, and I built it to over 220 million in less than 4 years. So I'd built this track record kind of in the trenches, my own MBA, if you will, of actually, building a business. But I looked back and I realized like this, it felt like I was emotionally bankrupt. I don't know if you ever heard that expression before, but I was just miserable. I had my dream home. I was making incredible money, traveling the world. I was in Dubai, Singapore, London, like all over the States, but I was just miserable. And I realized it's because I wasn't really pursuing my passion, and the stuff that really scared me, but also excited me, was building my own business, not building somebody else's empire. And so it was that catalyst of just that, for a whole year, knowing like, this is not where I'm supposed to be, but being smart about it before you take the leap and actually leave. That's why it took me some time to actually leave. But that was really why, just not feeling like this was it for me.
So mentally you got prepared a year prior. And so you didn't just one day up and decided, hey, I'm going to quit today. What are some
That's what you want to do, right? I quit, but you can't do that. It's not the smartest thing to do.
But so what were some of the steps that you did to mentally prepare yourself? And then also, financially, what did you do to prepare yourself for that day when you were actually going to make that move and quit?
A lot of it was just building up savings, making sure that I knew when I left that I could not expect to make the same income that I was making when I was working for this company. I wouldn't have all the benefits like insurance and, all those things that you don't even really think about. And being okay with, in my mind, knowing that I may have to take a step back in terms of my lifestyle. I may not be able to live in that dream home if I really want to invest in myself and invest in my business and really make this work. I think some of the things I didn't expect after quitting was realizing how much of my identity and self-worth, like self-worth, was wrapped up in who I was in corporate. And when you leave corporate and you don't have the boardroom anymore, and you're not walking in that room in your power heels and your suit where, you've got teams of hundreds of people, you kind of feel a little bit lost at first. So that was something that I didn't even really know to prepare for. Like I knew, like I have these sales skills. I can teach anybody sales and I can sell anybody on bringing me on board to teach them sales. But there were a lot of unexpected things, just a mental perspective that I didn't see coming. So it's been a huge journey of personal growth, and I'm happier than I've ever been. But it was a lot to get to the point where I'm at today. Yeah.
And so it's great that you were able to also work with your father. And, was there anybody else in your life who had helped you along, mentally getting you prepared, even after that transition to get you started and set up for success?
It's really my parents. And I realize how lucky I am, how blessed I am to have both of my parents in my life, that they're both alive and that they both actively support like everything I do. My mom has always believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She's seen things in me that I couldn't see in myself. And I've watched my dad since I was a kid be an entrepreneur. He never, ever wanted to work for anybody. And my dad is the type that he's built 6 different companies. He'd build them up, then he'd sell them. I've seen him get leveled financially. Back when I was in 7th grade, he went from multimillionaire to lost everything, but he rebuilt himself. He just, and me seeing that in him and his ability to, he's fearless. I'm not afraid of that. Like I'm going to run after my dreams and really live the life that I've always wanted. And me watching him do that gave me the confidence, like, okay, I can't just sit in this cush corporate job making this type of money when I feel like my calling is somewhere else. So it's having somebody that's already paved like the path for me. I'm lucky that it's my father.
So you mentioned that your passion is in sales. So for you, people think of sales. When they think of sales, they might have a different connotation of what sales means. But for you, what does sales mean? And how do you use that to, help other people?
I think I'm passionate about sales because it's almost repairing the reputation that like bad behaving salespeople have given, the word sales, or when people think of sales, they're like, oh, I can't stand salespeople. So my whole goal is to get people to a place where they're like, wow, I could really do that. When I was in the corporate world and we do big trainings every 6 weeks, we just franchise organizations. So we'd have people come in and everybody would go through sales training, not just our salespeople, like administrative assistants, operations managers would all come through there. And I knew that I was teaching sales the right way when I continually would get operations people that said, I would never, ever want to do sales, but you make me feel like I can do this and really enjoy it at the same time. Because sales to me is disarmingly honest conversations with people. It's just getting people to put their walls down where we can have a transparent conversation about what's not working in your world. Do you have the problems that I fix? First of all, what isn't working? And are we a good fit for each other? This is what I do. This is where you need help, and let's figure it out together. And it may or may not work, and that's okay. But we'll still maintain, a relationship from that point going forward. And I really believe that's how you build your network.
And so it seems like it really translates very well into the investor relations standpoint where you're focusing in on the real estate side of things. How does that structured for you and like your conversations with your investors as other people are coming to, look for potential opportunities?
Yeah, I really look at investors. Like I just got off a call before I got on here to do this podcast with you. I just had a call with an investor. And for me, it's like the joy of getting to meet new people, the incredible fact that we have technology that can connect us, where she's in Missouri and I'm here in Texas, and we can build a relationship through Zoom. But I love having those investor conversations. And I think that my conversations are so fluid because I have a structure to them. Like I know the information that I'm needing to get, and I know the information I need to give back for them to feel comfortable. But I really look at it like I'm building a friendship and relating to somebody as if I've known them for 20 years and they were a dear friend of mine who's having financial challenges and they need help, with their investments. So I think when you approach it that way and it's less serious and it's okay to laugh and have a good time, even if you're meeting a stranger, you make it a lot easier for them. Because I think active investors don't realize that investors are probably intimidated when they get on a call with you. their first time. They don't really know this investment world and they're brand new. So the last thing we want to do is be super serious and, talk over their head and use really big words. I think it should be a relaxed environment where you're meeting somebody for a virtual coffee, for the first time. That's my approach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it's the first time that you're having a conversation with them. And so, especially with something serious about and as personal as it is about finances. And so, how do you bridge that gap and kind of take down those walls to make them feel comfortable enough where they can open up and discuss these sensitive issues with you?
My first step that I've taught, in sales with all of my clients, the first step in any sales process is to disarm somebody. And if you think about investors, when they talk to you or in any sales process, no matter what you're selling, people's biggest fear is that you're going to push them into saying yes, and that they're going to feel like they're being sold. And so people have their walls up out of the gate, whether you did anything to put their walls up or not. So my favorite way to get their walls down, if I'm feeling that, is just to let them know out of the gate that what we do isn't the best fit for everybody. And it's going to depend on what they're hoping to accomplish. And if they get to a point in the conversation where they don't feel like it's a good fit, are they going to be okay telling me that? And getting them to say no up front is a key to having a successful conversation. But also at the same time, letting them know that if for some reason I listen to what you're hoping to accomplish and what you're looking for, and I just feel like we're not the right fit, are you going to be okay if I tell you that? Like, well, yeah, I hope you would. And we all of a sudden have, some trust built here of there is a purpose to this conversation. We're going to get to a place where it makes sense or it doesn't. And it's okay, whatever the answer is. And I think when their walls come down from the very beginning of the conversation, it's easier to ask them questions about, what's going on in their life financially that made them reach out and want to look at, alternative investments.
What you just said, I think brings up a really important piece of it, because especially when you're having that first conversation with the investor or potential partnership, it's like they don't know what they don't know. They don't want to have that feeling that they're backed into something or forced into a situation, an uncomfortable situation. So by clearing the air up front and having that open communication where, hey, if it's not the right fit, just let me know right away, and then, we don't want to take up more of your time if it's not the right fit, or we can continue building the relationship. But just setting those ground rules up front, I think it really sets the tone for the conversation that comes afterward.
Yeah. And you show up as a leader, because I think a lot of syndicators, active investors, right? That word's synonymous, but I think a lot of people don't realize that first conversation sets the tone for all future interactions. And if you don't show up as a leader in that conversation, why would they want to give you 100,000 of their hard-earned money when you have a deal that comes up in 2 to 3 months? If that first conversation didn't go well and you weren't leading them even through the conversation, how you show up initially. So I think that's really what builds trust there, is people feel comfortable in your presence.
So for you, after having a conversation with an investor, what would you consider as a successful call with them? Like, what would be your biggest takeaway after you get off a call? Like, that was a fantastic call.
I would know what their biggest concerns are and their biggest fears investing. That's a conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. Like, why would you want to rock the boat? Why would you? Because it's going on in their head anyways. Those are the disarmingly honest conversations that you have to have if you don't want to end up with people that give you lip service and you think it was a great call, and at the end of it, you add them to your investor list, but you never hear from them again. I mean, that's what happens when people think they're going to raise $2 million on a deal and they raise $1 million. They raise 50% of what they thought they were going to raise because they don't really have anything to hold on to from the investor conversation. So I want to know what are their biggest concerns and their fears, and I want to talk them through it and understand what those are. I would also call it a successful conversation is that I know exactly how much capital they're looking to move and in what timeline, and where is that capital coming from? And is it set aside for anything else? Are they exploring other potential investments? So I have a list of criteria that I go through just in my own mind when I'm talking to an investor. So I'm clear on what types of deals would qualify for what they're looking for. But really, it's the specifics of what type of capital are they trying to move and when, and what could get in the way that could deter that, where they decide to move it into something else instead of maybe a potential deal that I have coming up. And another key one is, who are the decision makers in this? Is there anybody else that they typically would talk to or consult with before they'd make an investment decision? Because that can really blow up your deal if you don't know that there's a financial advisor that's going to weigh in on this, or a spouse that was never included in the conversation. So those are some of the key things that I look for.
So then after that, a first initial conversation and, you get off the phone and you're feeling great. The investor is feeling great. They felt educated. They gained a lot of knowledge. And what are the steps afterwards that you do to maintain that communication and building up that relationship with them?
So depending on the investor, if there's somebody that's on what I call our preferred investor list, I usually check in with them once a month, depending on what our acquisitions are looking like, because I do want to keep them engaged and I want to keep them warm. Another option is doing a monthly webinar that just pulls people in. It's a lot of fun. Grab a glass of wine, come in. We're going to chat about how to make money in real estate. And because you're not building an investor list, you're building a community. And you're building a community of people where you get to establish the culture and you get to say that this is fun. And we're going to become friends. We're going to learn about real estate, but they look at you as, the leader, and it's somewhere that they can show up monthly and continue to learn about multifamily or about vineyards in our world that we do monthly. So it's hard because I think there's a lot of active investors out there that just want to send out emails, and emails are great, but if you don't have a good open rate, people aren't even opening the emails, what's the point? And they're going to forget that you're there. But getting to see them face to face and really building a community, I believe, is what really creates a successful, warm investor community that's ready to move money when you have a deal that arrives.
So I love that you mentioned the community aspect of it. So for you, how do you set the tone of your webinars or your community that really reflect who you are as a person and what you want other people to bring to the community and to the group as well?
You have great questions. Those are awesome questions. You should be, you're seriously, I was a broadcast journalism major before I actually finalized my major in communications. So I'm like, you could be a journalist. Anyway. Yes. Side note, right? So I believe that investing should be fun. And so we've really established a community where our investors know when they attend one of our investor webinars, there's going to be music playing when they log in. And it's either, if we're doing, the Vineyards, then it's probably Through the Grapevine or the Dust on the Bottle song or God Bless Texas. Like it's going to be something that's themed around vineyards. And they know that my first question is always going to be like, who followed the assignment? Raise your glass if you've got your favorite glass of wine or a cocktail. I try to create it like where it's a more relaxed environment where people look forward to attending it. And so it's easy as well because my dad I think he's always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. He's got a lot of dad jokes. But our investors love it, so we throw a lot of humor in there when we're talking about investing. And one of our investors texted me after our last webinar, and he was like, this was by far the most entertaining webinar I've ever attended. Thank you guys so much. And I was like, to me, that's a huge win because it should be fun, right? It should be fun. Like we're offering incredible opportunities. We're helping people build legacies for their family. We're helping them mitigate their risk from the stock market. Like we really are making an impact. And I think that it can be fun while you're doing it. So I would encourage you to add music. You just add music at the beginning when people are logging in. If you're like, what type of music? Disco music. Disco music will make everybody smile. It'll lift their spirits. They'll come into it having a good time. And it's different. They're like, what? Why are we listening to Boogie Fever? We're talking about investing in a multifamily deal. So that's one of my pieces of advice is just creating a more relaxed environment. You can have fun investing.
That is very, very true. And so I wanted to ask you too, because you mentioned dad jokes and I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is your favorite dad jokes that maybe you've heard or that maybe your dad has told?
Dang it. Okay. So some of them are super cheesy. He's going to be so upset with me. He's going to listen to this. So sorry, Dad, in advance. It's funny because my siblings and I were like, we need to start documenting all of these because a lot of them are on the spot. Like they're not jokes that he gets from a book. So he'll always say something about like, anytime he uses the word expert, right? Like somebody's an expert in something. He's like, well, you know what an expert is. And everybody's like, what? And he's like, somebody that used to be a spurt. And we're like, Dad, like, you get it? Like I usually have to throw in a courtesy laugh, and then I come on, I'm like, listen, I know y'all didn't expect comedy in this investor webinar, but we're here to have fun. So if you don't know that he's making a joke, I'll laugh first and then you can all laugh along with me. And that always gets them like laughing. And I also know to say, I'll turn on their video, right? Versus like a lot of webinars that you do where you just see their names, they turn on their video because they want you to see they've got their glass of wine and they want you to see their face when they're laughing, right? At my dad's jokes. So it just, You can use that one if you'd like. An expert is somebody that used to be a spurt.
I will every time I hear that now.
Yeah.
And those are the best because it's like you wait for it and you're like, wait, what? And then after it clicks, it's like, those are the best.
You're laughing because you're like, that is so cheesy. But you can't not laugh. It's still funny.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
So for you, Keely, what are you the most excited about in the upcoming future?
I am the most excited about these vineyards because I absolutely love multifamily. I think multifamily is going to be around for a long time. With the vineyards, it's something that I didn't expect, just came from building relationships with people. And there's something that's spiritual about the vineyards. It's hard for me to explain, but standing out in the middle of 350 acres of grapes, before harvest, there's something spiritual about it.
Beautiful.
You think about like building a legacy for your family and looking at this fruit and knowing what it's going to produce. So it excites me because it's new and it's a huge opportunity to fill the supply gap in Texas. I love that it's a Texas investment because I'm a 7th generation Texan. I've been here my whole life. I don't think I'm ever allowed to leave, but our roots date back to the 1800s. And so I love that it's building a Texas legacy too, while we're helping our investors build one for their families. So I'm having a lot of fun with the vineyard marketing and the capital raise for that.
And the fruit and the wine afterwards.
Yes, of course. All that, right? It's so funny because people are like, oh, I'm so excited to invest in wine. I'm like, well, you're not really investing in wine. You're investing in the grapes. Like we're really grape farmers, but vineyard sounds a lot better from a marketing perspective. People always laugh when they hear that. I'm like, we will bottle some wine from these vineyards, but we're grape farmers basically, but we have fun doing it.
So Keely, how has real estate investing impacted your life?
I have, through this real estate world, built friendships that will last a lifetime. Literally women that I didn't expect to come into my life, friends that I've always prayed for. I remember I'm going to be 37 in July, but I remember my early 30s, just not really having friends in my life that understood the world that I was in. So I was in corporate at that point. I left in 2017, but not having somebody to share the struggles with, of climbing a corporate ladder, of being a workaholic when it's really is your passion and it's just what you were created and built to do, was to run at full speed. And I always wanted those friends, and it took some time, but God brought them into my life through real estate. And these are women that I'll be friends with for the rest of my life. Like I found my tribe through real estate, and the blessing of being able to work with my father is something that I will never take for granted.
It's interesting. It's because, when we're younger, you have school, you have peers, other classmates that you become friends with, because you're not in like not everybody's trying to get to that financial monetary goal or whatever like that, but everybody's just there to enjoy each other, to have fun and just learn from each other. And so then as you get older, I feel like, you kind of lose that a little bit as you get into the corporate environment, the working jobs. And so it's harder and harder to make those meaningful relationships as you get older, to find that community, to find a tribe. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like in real estate, at least, you're finding a lot of like-minded people who are aspiring to do very big things, similar goals, like the mindset, the lifestyle, it's very similar. And so it's nice to be able to connect on a different level when, it's a little bit harder to find people as you get older.
Yes, it is. Like they need to make like dating apps, but they need to make it for friends. Friends. That would be awesome. That's a great point.
So Keely, what is the one thing that you know now about real estate that you wish you knew when you first started?
I wish I'd started sooner. I'm sure everybody says that, but I've actually found, through real estate, and I guess this isn't specifically real estate related, but I found that I really am a creative person. If you'd asked me before, like, are you creative? I'm like, no, I'm not creative. I am. And I've learned that through being in real estate. I love the idea of taking a raw piece of land and building an incredible vineyard, but being able to learning how to tell the story of that vineyard to investors and building a beautiful website and marketing. And same thing with multifamily, being able to make a property that's not pretty. If we're being honest, most of the properties we buy are not that pretty, especially when we get them. But being able to turn it into something beautiful, I've learned through real estate that I actually am a creative person. And so I'm learning to embrace that more.
And what is the one thing that sets the successful people apart in real estate investing?
It's your passion. If you're in it just for the money, I don't think that you'll be able to really pursue it long-term, consistently, because it's hard, right? If we're being honest, like this is not an easy world. It is hard. And if you measure your success daily based on how many deals you've acquired this year, you're going to be frustrated because you might go a whole year before you get another acquisition in the market that we're in. You're going to have deals, as that you put offers on and you come in second. You're going to have deals that you get accepted LOIs and something happens during due diligence and it doesn't work out and you were emotionally attached to that, right? Like this is the one. And so there's a lot of disappointments in this world. So I think you have to have a passion that's more than just real estate and more than just the money, whether it's tapping into your creative side and that's your outlet. If you love people, it's your ability, opportunity to meet a bunch of new people and make friends. It's making an impact if it's for your family. And I know a lot of people that are listening are not just in this for the money, but it can draw a lot of people in simply for the money. And I don't think that those people will be around long-term because I think there has to be something that's deeper at the root of it for it to continue to grow.
Fantastic. Keely, I loved this interview. I loved your personality.
And back at you, Kylie. You're so great at asking questions. This has been one of the most fun podcasts I've done.
Oh, thank you very much. It's so nice of you to say. So for our listeners out there who also want to get a taste of you and to find out a little bit more about who you are, maybe attend one of your fun wine drinking webinars with your dad jokes. Where is the best place that they can go?
They can find us on our website, just hubbardcapitalgroup.com. You'll find all the information there on the Vineyards. We're going to have some of those fun wine drinking webinars coming up soon. If you want to,
And thank you for listening to our podcast today, brought to you by Bonavest Capital. We would really appreciate it if you can go to iTunes right now and leave a rating and written review. Also, please don't forget to subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. You can also connect with us on Facebook, How Did They Do It Real Estate. We'd love to hear your feedback and any topics that you're interested in for future episodes. Lastly, to learn more about us, you can go to bonavestcapital.com and fill out the Contact Us page so you can speak to us directly. Nothing on the show should be considered as specific personal advice. Please consult your legal, tax, and real estate professionals for individualized advice.